I have to admit something to all of you. It took me several days to write the introduction of our following speaker. It was not because she didn't have anything worth speaking about, it was actually the complete opposite. I met her when you were at the 2012 Texas Leadership Conference. I clearly remember because she was trying to get me to dance. Even though the time that I've had to talk to her has been very limited, I can say that she is without a doubt a leader. Here's why. Higher education was not part of Toni's plans. Instead, she joined the United States Army Reserve. After having served proudly for 8 years, she was discharged honorably in 2004. Living in a more competent world each day, Toni soon accepted the fact that she was and would not be proficient in today's economy with only a high school diploma. Because of this cold truth, she decided to look away for not to only overcome herself academically, but personally as well, all in order to better provide for her 2 kids. She found Victoria College in Victoria, Texas. There she is speaking the way to obtain a degree in communications, public relations, or marketing when her transferred to a 4-year institution. She is a member of the State Gala chapter and has served as both vice president and chapter president. Toni has received several scholarships from Victoria College. She has been named a member of the District 5 Hall of Honor and more recently was elected as the International Vice President of Division 2. Toni does not only demonstrate that in life things will never go the way you expect them, but more importantly, she serves as an example of determination and self-improvement. Please welcome my friend and Phi Theta Kappa's Division 2 International Vice President, Toni Marek.
Today, I want to tell the story of a man that I've got to know over the past few months. I got to know him a little bit better than I thought I did. But before I do this, I need your help. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and as I do this, if you answer yes to any of these questions, make a mental note of how many apply to your life. Have you felt the indescribable pain that comes with losing a loved one? Have you had financial problems that knocked you down further than you ever thought you would fall? Have you felt the shame that comes from being fired or demoted? Have you ever lost a competition that you not only gave your heart and soul to, but you really, really wanted to win? Now, as you think about these questions, think back to what you did after one or more of these things happened to you. Did you recover? Did you endure? Or did you just give up? The man I want to tell you about faced all of these hardships. He encountered incredible trials and tribulations, and when he met them, he had to choose the path he would take. He had to decide if failure would define his destiny. And as I tell you about him at various stages in his life, I want you to think about where you were or what you were doing at that age, or where you might be when you are that age. When he was only 7 years old, his parents lost their home. And at 9 years old, his mother died. At age 22, he failed at his first business venture. At age 23, jobless, he tried to get into law school, but he was denied entry. And defeated, he enlisted in the military and went to war with a high-rank captain. But by the time the war was over, he'd been demoted to enlisted private. When he was 24, he borrowed money from a friend to start another business. But this time he went bankrupt and he actually spent almost 2 decades paying that debt off. At the age of 26, his fiance died, and he had a nervous breakdown. In between each of these failures, this man lost 8 major competitions he was involved in, and all of this before he was 50 years old. How many of you would have quit trying? Let's face it, this man didn't just fail. He failed repeatedly. He was a colossal failure. In today's culture of competition, men like this are judged by their failures, much like the ones this man dealt with. Most of the time, men like this are deemed losses to society and never thought of again. And they quit too. Book closed. I believe this is because many of us hear from the media, our peers, motivational speakers, almost on a daily basis. Failure is not an option. Failures are not something to be celebrated. Failures are to be mourned. So what did this man I told you about? Did he mourn his failures? Well, he didn't see his first major success until he was 51 years old. And if you haven't guessed it by now, his name was Abraham Lincoln. And at the age of 51, he was elected the 16th president of the United States. Now, as you think back on this story, the dots don't really connect. The word competition infers there's a clear winner and a clear loser. And clearly, Lincoln was a loser. So, how did Lincoln become a winner? When most of society says that men like him who fail over and over again are never supposed to find success. How do you triumph over failure? Well, I'll tell you the first step. You don't. You fail a lot. How many of those questions that I asked a while ago did you answer yes to? Lincoln's story, until he was 51, resonates with so many people because most all of you endured the same failures as he did, on some level. What Lincoln decided to do was feel that failure has the absolute power to define your destiny. He decided he wasn't going to mourn his failure. He was going to be content with his failure. Lincoln said, "My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you're content with your failure." He saw that his failures were not something to mourn or lament, because that would have actually led to his demise. Failures were the very reason he was eventually successful. Success can only be found through failure. Recently, Small Business Development Center at the University of Tennessee released a study that proved exactly this. They found that 46% of startup businesses in 2012 failed because of incompetence. The business hopefuls included in the study lacked the knowledge of pricing, planning, and experience. 30% of the businesses studied failed because of the lack of managerial experience, and another 11% failed because they had a lack of experience in the services they provided. To sum it up for you, 87% of the startup businesses failed because the entrepreneurs lacked experience and knowledge that can only come from good old-fashioned failing. So, now we know failing is a good thing. Are we going to strive for it? Are we going to encourage our friends and our family to fail? Are we going to send our kids out the door tomorrow, every day, and yell after them, "I love you, don't forget to fail your best today"? Of course not. But, do we as honor students want to try and fail? For some of us, and I'll be the first to admit it, anything other than an A is failing. How many of us who strive for absolute excellence in regard to our grades try to get a B and then celebrate it? The more likely scenario is that you wept over that B and never considered that the A letter grade quite possibly cost me more than the B. When you see your final grade at the end of the semester, do you ever wonder if the cost-benefit analysis of your GPA worked in your favor? I can answer that for myself, and I say with resounding confidence, yes. I earned a B last semester, and I celebrate that grade. My GPA fell 4/100 of a point over that one B, but I celebrated my grades. Was this always the case? I can also answer that most unequivocally, no. I did not celebrate my 4.0 GPA when I had it. I didn't have the time because I spent hours studying and studying and studying more. I most definitely did not celebrate my first B or my second. So what changed along the way? How did my past stay the course of failure semester after semester, yet instead of feeling defeated and depressed, I started to embrace and celebrate failure, much like Lincoln did? Well, to start with, I've struggled with failure all of my life. When I was in high school, I was told that I couldn't go to college. I wasn't smart enough, and there was no money anyway. Then as a divorced parent, I felt like I was failing at one of the most basic instincts there is, motherhood. And when I was driven to higher education, it was because I failed again. I couldn't get a job with only a high school diploma that would even allow me to put food on the table for my kids. When I was invited to be a member of Phi Theta Kappa, the people around me that knew me, they thought I stopped failing. And the truth is, I've never failed more as an honor student. I failed exams because I've been so tired, I didn't go to class and I missed important information. I failed my family because I chose studying over birthdays and holidays. And I failed my children because I sent them to daycare because I chose to put school first. These failures haunted me until an unnamed, wise Phi Theta Kappa advisor from Zeta Gamma told me one day, I have to unlearn what I've learned. Eventually, I came to realize what this meant, and I started to examine my actions, my successes, my failures. Were my shortcomings in the loss of 4.0 really failures? Was my eye on the wrong prize? Ask yourself this. What's more important? The knowledge and experience that an earned letter grade of a C or B may bring, or the clout of a 4.0 GPA in a life with no time to celebrate. After recounting my life and my journey, I started to realize that each thing I deemed as a failure was actually an accomplishment. These failures were steps towards something bigger. I realized that instead of beating myself up about failing, I should be celebrating the plain and simple fact that despite each setback, I kept going. I was learning something new every time I failed. You see, each time we fail, we gain knowledge and experience that does not come with success, but leads us to success. So I didn't give up. I finally started to unlearn what failure really was. Billie Jean King said, be bold. If you're going to make an error, make it a doozy, and do not be afraid to hit the ball. At the core of this game called failure, fear is the tipping point. Whether it's fear of what society, your family, or your friends think you should be doing, or if it's your own personal fear of failure. Fear also has the absolute power to define her destiny. King did not let fear define her, and she didn't give up. In 1990, Life magazine named her one of the 100 most important Americans of the 20th century. Not sports figures, mind you, but Americans. She was the only female athlete on that entire list, and one of only 4 on the list. Venus and Serena Williams were 2 young African-American girls from the worst part of LA. They were told they would never succeed in a white man's country club sport called tennis. Well, they didn't give up. They took every failure and learned from it. And today, they will forever be known as the women who changed the face of tennis. If you've ever heard Temple Grandin speak, or you know her story, you know she also embraced the parts of her life that she failed at. She turned that knowledge and experience into something that changed an entire industry. Thomas Edison was told as a young boy that he was too stupid to learn anything. He was fired from 2 jobs for failing to accomplish anything. And as an inventor, he was a monumental failure. He tried, it's reported, over 1,000 times to invent the light bulb, failing each time. And we all know how that ended. J.K. Rowling, any fans?
Harry Potter.
Well, she lived in poverty. She lived on government assistance, and she was told that she could never make a living writing, and it was silly to even pursue it. She was rejected from Oxford, she was divorced, she was jobless, penniless, she was a single mom, and basically she hit rock bottom by the time she was 30. Countless publishers rejected her work, and today, she is the only author in the history of the world to have ever become a billionaire solely through her writing. These people did not give up. I believe that Edison said it best when he said, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." When you examine your successes and your failures, did you give up right before your life was about to change? Do you put your failures and successes into the right categories? Who defines this concept of right? I say that you do. Society's outlook on failure, and the failure is not an option mantra, they promote the fear of failure, the fear of celebrating failure, learning from failure, and growing from it. So I say that you absolutely must fail, or you will never learn. You'll never grow, and you'll never truly succeed. This culture of competition that we live in is changeable, and you are the ones that are going to do it. We, Phi Theta Kappa, we must redefine society's perception of failure. Celebrate every failure and see each one as steps towards something bigger and better. These are life's lessons, and they're essential to any one person's success. I want to leave you with one of my favorite pieces of advice from Winston Churchill. He said, "Never, never, never, never give up." So now I want you to go out and fail your best.